Hello and welcome to the Hoopers Dimension podcast. It is your boy Ernest, the host of the Hoopers Dimension podcast, and we are back with another episode. The NBA season is, coming into full swing. We're almost out of October. We're almost done with the first month of the season. We're almost into November. Tomorrow's Halloween. Happy Halloween, I guess, if you consider Halloween a holiday. And there's a lot to talk about. There is a lot to talk about. There's a lot that happened, and I'm excited to get right into the episode. But before I do that, please go like, comment, and subscribe, and give feedback on why you enjoyed or didn't enjoy the video. And if you didn't enjoy, still like, comment, and subscribe. But yeah, we should get right into it because there was a lot that happened. But one of the biggest things that I want to talk about is Kyrie Irving. A big headline that came out about Kyrie Irving is that he gets mood swings. That he's been having mood swings. There was this whole Bleacher Report article that he's had mood swings, that he has these episodes of acting weird, and it concerns team officials. And my biggest thing about this is it comes out as false advertising to me, because the way the headline was worded on Twitter and the way it made Kyrie seem, it made it seem like he just acts weird. He'll just do these crazy things, and it doesn't really just match up with the tone of the rest of the article. And I think this headline gave a lot of people a false impression of what I think this gave a lot of people a false impression over what the article actually said. And again, the article essentially said that Kyrie would have these short periods of time, maybe a 1 or 2 day stretch where he wouldn't talk to any coaches, to the GM, to any team officials, and sometimes even his teammates. But this was also backed by the fact of some of his teammates saying that he's an amazing leader, that they go through similar things, that he's the best leader they can ever want. And also these sources are not always 100%. And to some people, it's over exaggeration. And I think it's really interesting how many people just looked at this and cited this as another reason that Kyrie Irving is some weirdo, that he's a bad leader. And I think it's really just looking at a headline of something and making a huge assumption. But again, that's not really the case. If you haven't read the article, you should go read it so you can really inform yourself on how the situation is and really the context of it. But yeah, the thing gives like very, very, very very bad context. But a direct quote from the article is, when Irving lapses into these funks, he often shuts down, unwilling to communicate with the coaching staff, front office, and sometimes even his teammate, McMullen wrote. But she also did write that Kyrie loves his teammates, that his teammates really praise him. And something interesting I find is someone in Boston on a Boston newspaper wrote this. So obviously I feel like that's going to sort of give a bit more bias, I guess, because of Kyrie's sort of bad history with Boston. But yeah, that was just something, an interesting little tidbit to start the episode off with. But something else that happened during the over the past few days is Trae Young went down with a right knee injury. This was pretty scary at the time I saw it. I was watching the game sort of in the background type of thing, but this was very, very scary because a player as great as Trae Young, and as good as he's been playing, he really is just an absolutely amazing player. And to see him go down really, really, really was scary. But thankfully though, it was only a minor right knee injury, and it will probably be a day-to-day thing and he can recover quickly. But obviously prayers to Trae Young. We all hope that he can come back very quickly because he is such a great player, so amazing to watch, one of the best upcoming point guards in the NBA, and losing him to a bad injury would really, really suck. But something sort of ironic or funny is how Trae Young gets a lot of Curry comparisons, and one of Curry's biggest knocks in his career is his injuries, especially in his knees and ankles. But yeah, I would hate to see a history with Trae Young and this becoming a regular reoccurrence. So yeah, but hope this is the the X-rays were negative. There are no serious injuries, and just I pray that Trae Young comes back very, very fast. But speaking of the Hawks versus Heat game, Jimmy Butler returned last night. Obviously Jimmy Butler signed with the Heat this summer over a sign and trade leave, departing from the Sixers, and he missed the first few games of the season, mainly because of his kid. His new kid was being born. Shout out to Jimmy Butler. I don't know if it was a girl or a boy. I'm pretty sure it was a girl, and I do not know her name. But yeah. Shout out to the new dad and Jimmy Butler. And it's good to just take breaks from basketball with very important, serious stuff like that, just to get a little mental health refresher. But yeah, including that, um, Jimmy Butler returned last night. His defensive tenacity and just seemingly leadership on the court looked really, really nice. He only played 31 minutes. He took 11 shots. He scored 20 points, playing nice defense. He had a lot of sort of reckless turnovers that could have been prevented, and he was also doing a very good job at getting to the free throw line. But this Heat team is going to be really, really good. I feel like they could be the third best team in the West. They're going to be really competitive, really nice. And just adding Jimmy Butler is obviously only going to bolster them. So because of that, I feel like they're going to just once this mesh period ends over the next 3 to 4 games, I feel like they really could take off. And the Heat for me is probably going to be my 3 seed. I'm going to refrain from sort of doing my predictions on the finals and standings because it's way too early to talk about any of that stuff. And I always see a lot of people putting their finals predictions, putting their standing predictions. And I think even on the show that I've said who I will think will win the finals, which is more of just a joke, and should be taken in a satirical matter because it is way, way, way too early, people, to be declaring who the NBA champion will be, predicting who's gonna fall out of the playoffs. It is way too early. I think I think it is reasonable to start making predictions for the finals championship around the second round of the playoffs. I feel like that can give you a much better prediction. And even then, it's unpredictable because it's the NBA and anything can happen. Um, so I'm gonna refrain from doing all of those, but some I will be making my award predictions today, and that was a very nice transition. And the first award I will be predicting is Rookie of the Year. Um, for me, how I predicted these awards, I predicted it really off how I think these players are going to play, what I've seen from them before. Obviously, I can't really say that for Rookie of the Year since I'm not very a big advocate for watching college basketball, but I'm going to be going off what I've seen before, what I think of them, their situations and context, and just off that, I'm going to be making my predictions. Some of these might be a little biased, but overall, these are just going to be my awards predictions, and obviously these should always be able to change. I think people always just think, oh, I made this prediction, you have to stick with it. But I feel like they should be a lot more loose, and I feel like people should treat all of their opinions like that. But these obviously can change, but these are just some of my predictions after some of the first impressions of the season and just what I've thought before the season started. And I will also be listing my top 3 candidates at each award, who I think will be the top 3, who are the 3 most likely to win it. And yeah, to get right into it, the Rookie of the Year, as my number 1, I have R.J. Barrett. As my number 2, I have Kendrick Nunn. And as my number 3, I have Ja Morant. Um, to start with, Ja Morant was obviously drafted by the Memphis Grizzlies. Last night or a few nights ago was having a stellar performance and blocked Kyrie Irving with what could have been the potential game winner and really led that Grizzlies team to a win. He's been a very, very good catalyst for the Grizzlies so far. I said Hornets. I'm sorry, I meant Grizzlies. But he's been a very good catalyst for them. His playmaking has looked very nice. Something I do want to see more from him, though, is him finishing at the rim. I did have my questions about his frame and how built enough he will be to really hang with some of the biggest guys in the league, and some of the more athletic guys, even like your Bam Adebayos, your Joel Embiid's, your Giannis's. just those really big guys, I feel like he's going to struggle finishing around them. But I would definitely love to see him go to the cup more and just drive more. But as a playmaker, he's definitely been looking decent. He's been averaging 5 turnovers and 5 assists. But I don't think that really paints the best picture of him. Um, but as a playmaker, he's looked very promising. His shot is still a little janky, but I've seen a lot. There's been obviously a lot of promise from him, and rookie point guards only improve as the seasons go on. So there's definitely a lot to expect from him. And I think Ja Morant can definitely take over the second half of the season and present a really strong argument to be first in winning Rookie of the Year. But for now, I'll have him as 3. I feel like if his playmaking improves, he cuts down on turnovers, he becomes a better finisher, shoots better from the free throw line, and gives a bit more defensive effort, I feel like he'll really just cement his argument as being the rookie of the year. But for my second option, I have one of the biggest surprises in the NBA being Kendrick Nunn. Man, Kendrick Nunn was an undrafted rookie from the 2018 class. He went to Illinois and Oakland. He was a transfer. Um, and he has been absolutely fantastic to begin the season. He's averaged 21 points, 2 rebounds, and 3 assists, shooting 48% from the field, 44% from 3 on 6 attempts, and has been shooting and hasn't missed a free throw. He has not missed a free throw. He has been so good. He is really good at attacking the rim. He's really shifty with a big combination of athleticism. He is pretty solid off the pick and roll with Bam. He's a nice ball handler, and he has a nice shot. And in transition, he is one of the deadliest young guards in the NBA. In fact, he is the deadliest young guard in the NBA in transition, behind only maybe De'Aaron Fox and Zach LaVine. He is that good. And he's just been very nice for the Heat. His defense is it's not the best at all, but I hope that Jimmy Butler being there and the whole Heat culture really just inciting defensive effort can push him to be a better defender as the year goes by. And I would also love to see him draw a bit more free throws, absorb a bit more contact, get to the free throw line more, get a few more shots. I feel like that would be really good for him. And he also has a very nice mid-range game. He's been shooting 50% from 2, 50% from 0 through 3 feet from the rim, 53% from 53 and 57% from mid-range. So his splits have been absolutely amazing. He's been a very nice all-around scorer from all parts of the field, and he's just going to be a super valuable piece to the Heat. Again, some of my knocks, I would just love to see him draw a bit more free throws and play a little bit better defense, man. Giving a bit more effort on defense will never hurt anybody. But yeah, as of right now, I think he is a very nice candidate for Rookie of the Year. But my first and number one candidate who I think will win this is RJ Barrett. I and a lot of other people had my doubts about RJ Barrett, but he has proven me wrong pretty quickly, very sufficely. Obviously the biggest question of RJ coming into the NBA was, can he be efficient? Can he be a solid shooter? And can he shoot? And can he handle the New York media? And so far, the answer to all of those is yes. He's been very efficient, shooting 50% from the field, except for the free throw line, he shot 44%. But he's definitely been drawing fouls pretty well. He's been shooting the 3 ball nicely. He's been just a very nice offensive player. He's been playing pretty decent defense. Obviously not the best, but for a rookie on the Knicks, I have to cut him some slack. But he's been a very good offensive player. He's been very versatile. He showed up as a late game closer for the He's shown up as a late game closer for the Knicks, and I think he really is gonna be. I really think he deserves a lot more attention for winning Rookie of the Year. Dave Fizdale, as a coach for New York, has been absolutely atrocious. His sets have been bad. He stagnated players. He's putting the ball in Julius Randle way too much, in my opinion, and he's just been misutilizing the entire Knicks roster, which in my opinion is chock full of talent. But because of this, the Knicks have not been the greatest to start, but they also have shown a lot of strides towards becoming a very competitive, solid team. And because of that, again, I think RJ could definitely be the rookie of the year. 20-point score, 27 and 3. I feel like he can get that assist number up, especially if Fizdale A or B, either Fizdale improves his sets or the Knicks fire Fizdale and bring in a better coach. So because of that, I have RJ Barrett as my number 1 for rookie of the year. Kendrick Nunn is my number 2, and Ja Morant. And moving right along, the next award we're going to be talking about is the most improved player. This one was really, really hard to choose because there has been a lot of breakout performances early, and there has just been a lot of great players who have just taken great strides to their game over the summer. But number 3, I have Miles Bridges. Miles Bridges is a player for the Hornets who is in his second year in the NBA, and he has been amazing to start. When Miles Bridges is getting the ball with the Hornets, they are winning. The Hornets are very competitive when Miles Bridges is getting a consistent amount of touches. Miles Bridges has been a very, very good three-point shooter for the Hornets. His ball handling is improved. He's really nice in transition. He is extremely athletic. He can jump out the roof. He can touch the moon. And he has just been he's just been very promising to start the season. He's had some flashes of some really nice finishing that I've loved to see. He's been shooting really well in the mid-range areas, and he hasn't been taking too many of those type of shots, but he's been really just – his average shot distance is about 14 feet, and he's been making those shots very, very well. He's been shooting a lot of threes very well, and he has shot 89% from 0 to 3 feet. And what that means is he has converted 89% of his finishes around the rim. That is better than Shaq. That is better than Giannis. Obviously, that's going to go down over the course of the season, and that's very healthy if it does. But just that as a start is great, and that is a humongous improvement from his already very solid finishing numbers last year. But Miles Bridges is gonna should get a lot more touches than he already does on this Hornets team. I feel like he is gonna be one of the big reasons for this Hornets team being somewhat competitive. And so far, the Hornets have been competitive to a certain extent. For a lot of their games, they've been competitive in the first half, put up a fight in the first half, and by the second half, it falls all apart and they're down by 20. 10 minutes into the third quarter. And that's obviously not the best, but Miles Bridges is going to be amazing. And he is one of the best candidates for most improved player. My second candidate is Jonathan Isaac. Jonathan Isaac just recently went off against the Raptors. He was absolutely fantastic. His defense was amazing. The way he was playing in that Raptors game, he looked like the best defender in the NBA. And that really bolstered his numbers greatly. And his defense has already been amazing ever since he entered the league. But the way he was playing defense, the way his offense looked, he looks like such a nice ball handler. He was making his threes, and he was also taking players off of the dribble and driving in and making layups and shooting mid-range jumpers. It was really, really, really nice. His identity and play style really fits the Magic, in my opinion. And obviously, he struggled for some parts of the season. But if he can do even a third of what he did in that Raptors game, I feel like he can really win Most Improved Player because he was absolutely terrific. He put up 24 points. Shot 70% from the field, 5 of 7 from 3, 5 of 5 from the free throw line, got 3 steals and 4 blocks. He was terrific. Some things that I do want to see from him. I would love to see him obviously just take bigger strides as a ball handler, and just making and being more confident in taking threes and taking shots whenever he's open. And I would also love him to see improve his playmaking. Right now, he averaged 0.7 assists. And assist isn't the best way to record playmaking, but there are definitely some times when he's forced into positions where he just can't make the right pass. And in the team like the Magic, being a good playmaker and just being a good ball handler would really just help that team. And the Magic desperately need a closer, someone who can close out games for them. And if Jonathan Isaac could step up as that, that would just be even better. That would be just something added on the top of the cake. But yeah, Jonathan Isaac has been really solid to start the season, is an amazing defender, has shown flashes of being amazing on offense, being a 16, 17-point scorer. And I really do think he has a very, very good chance at winning Most Improved Player. But my number one for Most Improved, the man who just went off against the Rockets, Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram, offensive skill set, his offensive bag has looked so deep. His offensive bag has looked deeper than the Grand Canyon. He has been hitting a huge array of mid-range shots, a nice hook game, floaters. He has just added so much to his game, and I feel like a lot of it was already there. It was just that the Lakers could not utilize it at all. He has just been absolutely terrific. He's shot 56% from 10 from 16 feet, and that is just terrific. That is one of the best mid-range shot percentages in the whole NBA. And last year he shot 39% from that same range. So obviously that is a massive improvement. He looks better as a pick and roll ball handler. His three-point shot has looked nice. He's just been an amazing creator. Overall, he has just looked terrific. He has looked spectacular, immaculate, marvelous. He has just been an amazing, such a prolific scorer. And if he can keep this up, he will undoubtedly be the first ever unanimous Most Improved Player. I think there has been other unanimous Most Improved Players. There might have been Gilbert Arenas, but yeah, I feel like he has just so vastly improved his offensive bag, and his defense has always been pretty solid, but it's also, if that can just have some strides to it, and he can become more proactive and more just, I guess, adept to some of the NBA offensives, it will just also just bolster his game greatly. So those are my three most improved player candidates. Brandon Ingram at 1 being my most likely, Jonathan Isaac at 2, and Miles Bridges at 3. The next position we're going to talk about is the sixth man of the year. At 1, we're going to do it differently this time. At 1, I have Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose has been absolutely amazing to start this season. He's averaged 21 points, 5 assists, 55% from the field, 50% from 3, and 94% from the free throw line. And obviously those raw numbers sort of just undervalue how good he has really been for this Pistons team. He has been huge for their bench, monumental for their whole team, and just them scoring. His playmaking has looked nice. His three-point shot has looked nice, and he's just been absolutely fantastic. If he keeps this up, not only will the Pistons be a competitive playoff team, he will be sixth man of the year. And I really think this could solidify his legacy, especially as a Hall of Famer. He hasn't been taking a lot of threes this season at all. Last season he was taking a lot more threes, but obviously, well, maybe not obviously, not everybody might not know, but during the second half of last season, Derrick Rose had one of the most atrocious three-point shooting slumps in all of NBA history. It was absolutely terrible. He shot about 9%, I believe, or 7% post All-Star break. It was just absolutely atrocious. It was just awful. He started struggling from the three-point line immensely. But what we've seen from the Pistons, he's been a really nice finisher. I feel like he's improved his skill from his younger self, I guess, sort of because he doesn't have the same athleticism, sadly, sort of because of all of the injuries he's been just hit with. And his knees being encumbered so many times from having nice movement and being able to just move right. But yeah, overall, Derrick Rose is the runaway favorite right now. Obviously, this could definitely change if he just hits a slump or something. But the biggest reason why it would change is because of his health. If he gets injured, if he gets just takes a few games off, a lot of games off because of load management, and doesn't play at least like 60, 65 games, he probably won't win it. But my second candidate for winning the Sixth Man of the Year is Kyle Kuzma. Kyle Kuzma is supposed to be coming back soon for the Lakers, and hopefully these injuries of his aren't going to be lingering the whole season. Hopefully he made a nice recovery and is going to be good for the rest of the season. But last year, Kyle Kuzma averaged 17 points, 6 rebounds, shooting 45% from the field and 33% from three. I feel like Kyle Kuzma has been working very, very hard, working relentlessly on his three-point shot. Last year he took 6 attempts, and it was sort of a drop-off from last year. Not a huge drop-off, but it was definitely a drop-off, and the percentage doesn't really show that. But if you look at the three-pointers he made per game, in 2018, 2017, it was 2.1. In 2019, it was 1.8. So that is definitely a drop-off. Not the most significant as some people try to make it out as it is, but it is definitely a drop-off. I feel like he's been working really hard on his shot. I feel like his efficiency is going to prove. I feel like that can go up to 47, 48%. He's going to be huge, monumental for that Lakers bench. I feel like he's just going to get a ton of buckets. And being in LA, that's going to just put even more spotlight on him. Obviously, he sort of has a big personality, is very outspoken on Twitter. And that's also just going to add even more media narrative to him. And him being the 27th pick in the draft is going to add even more media narrative. And that, in addition to what I expect to be very, very good play, could really solidify him as a great six-man and winning six-man of the year. A worry for me, though, is that the Lakers experiment a lot and he starts a lot of games. I feel like that obviously might mess up his chances to win six man of the year if he isn't a six man, but I feel like he should not start most of the games, come off the bench, and he probably will, but I don't know. Frank Vogel might just experiment a little. But my third and final candidate for winning six man of the year is, he's sort of basic, I guess, Lou Williams. He's a 3-time six man. Won it last year. He is obviously one of the best scoring six man of all time. Definitely isn't the best six man of all time, by the way. John Havlicek, Kevin McHale, Manu Ginobili, all of them are better six man in my opinion. And I'm definitely forgetting somebody. Oh my goodness. Dan Marley also isn't a better six man, but yeah, he is one of the better six mans of all time. Definitely isn't the best, but he is sort of the default pick if you don't have anyone else to choose for six man. Obviously, he is so silky smooth in that mid-range game, and Doc Rivers is so good at optimizing his skills in the mid-range game. He is a very nice ball handler for the Clippers, has a nice shot, can really just maximize, can really manipulate defenders to foul him, get to the free throw line at will. Obviously, one of his best skills. Has improved his efficiency seemingly this year, and is just overall a really, really solid six-man. And with the Clippers team going to probably be on the brink of possibly 60 wins, that will also just further his numbers probably and also his chances at winning six-man. So shout out to Lou Will. Just a bread and butter six-man candidate since pretty much like 2009, 2010. So yeah, shout out to Lou Will. Shout out to the Clippers. But those are my three candidates for six man. One being Derrick Rose, two being Kyle Kuzma, and three being Lou Williams. But next, we are going to be talking about the coach of the year. In this one, I sort of have some strange choices, I guess you could say. But on my third is the coach of one of my favorite teams in the league and one of the teams I'm very, very high on and think can really surprise some people. That coach is Steve Clifford. Steve Clifford, if you do not know, is the coach of the Orlando Magic and is one of the best defensive-minded coach in the NBA. He used to be a coach for the Hornets, got fired around 2017, 2016, I want to say. But he is a he became the coach of the Magic in 2018, and he has really transformed that team. And his culture is built around defensive effort. Defensive effort and defense in general is really the reason why the Magic flourished so much during the second half of the season last year, why they are one of the best defenses in the league right now, and why I think they're going to be really, really good this season. And if they play really, really well, get 45, 47, possibly even 50 wins, and take advantage of some of those weaker Eastern Conference teams, your Suns, your Cavaliers, even though those aren't in the Eastern Conference. Well, the Suns aren't, and the Suns are pretty competitive. But if he can just take advantage of some of those weaker Eastern teams and lead his team to getting a lot of wins, I feel like he will be very, very, very dark horse as a coach of the year candidate. And again, he is so good at just building defenses. He has led the most wins he's won in a season is 48, which obviously isn't the most promising, but I definitely think he can change that this year. And the Magic are going to surprise a lot of people. I've talked about this before, but the Magic are going to surprise a lot of people. Shout out Jonathan Isaac. Shout out Steve Clifford. Shout out the Magic's defense. Shout out Markelle Fultz too. But my second candidate as coach of the year is Lloyd Pierce. Lloyd Pierce, ladies and gentlemen. Lloyd Pierce is the coach of the Atlanta Hawks, and he has been a coach since last year, since 2018. He was assistant coach for the 76ers until then. And one of the biggest things that I've seen Lloyd Pierce preach about and talk about is first shot defense. And what he means is defending the first shot very well and getting the rebound. And I feel like watching the Hawks have had one of the better first shot defenses in the entire league. Their defense is improved. They have a lot of defensive weapons. I feel like Lloyd Pierce is only helping out Trae Young as a player. I really like his sets. I really like what he's doing with Cam Reddish and DeAndre Ayton. I like how he's gotten John Collins to improve as a defender. I like the rotations he's giving, and I just love his player-coach relationship. I feel like the Hawks, if they make a lot of noise, if they make it into the playoffs, win 40-plus games, Lloyd Pierce can be a really big coach be a really big candidate for Coach of the Year. Also, I just love the way Lloyd Pierce just sort of carries himself, his swagger, I guess. And yeah, and I really do think he can maximize his players really well. I feel like Cam Reddish is just going to improve steadily over the season. Same with DeAndre Hunter. Kevin Huerter has looked great this season. He's a sleeper candidate for winning Sixth Man of the Year. And shout out to the Hawks. Shout out to Lloyd Pierce, my second candidate for Coach of the Year. But my number one candidate for Coach of the Year is Frank Vogel. Frank Vogel was the coach for the Indiana Pacers for a pretty long time. He was the coach for the Indiana Pacers, I don't know. But he was also the coach. He had a pretty short stint for the Orlando Magic. But Frank Vogel is very, very, very interesting. I feel like with the LA media, if he can just lead that Lakers team to 55 wins, 53 wins, he'll be a huge candidate for Coach of the Year. He's been tinkering with lineups. He's been making adjustments. His rotations, I feel like they're much, much, much improved from Coach Luke Walton's rotations. I like what he's doing with the Lakers defense. I like how he's having LeBron be the primary playmaker and having LeBron being in a very, very heavy playmaking role. And I feel like Coach Vogel's gonna do a very good job with the Lakers, and I feel like he could really stand a great chance at winning Coach of the Year. He has never won Coach of the Year before. He was the coach of the Pacers from 2011 to 2016, and coached the Magic from 2017 to 2018. But yeah, shout out to Frank Vogel. My number one is Coach of the Year. And the next thing we're going to be talking about, and speaking of the Lakers, is Defensive Player of the Year. And my number 3 for Defensive Player of the Year is Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis is definitely a big anchor to the Lakers defense. Is a nice shot blocker. Can really impact a lot of shots that come up around the rim, and is one of the best shot blockers in the league. He is averaging 3 blocks so far into the start of the season. Has been a bit more active on the perimeter, I feel like, in pick and roll action. He has decent hands. He can really pick up he can pick up a solid steal per game. I feel like he has a nice defensive IQ. He can read switches pretty well, just read defensive pretty well. And I feel like he can really stagger and slow down a lot of good teams, all perimeter players or big man. And as a Defensive Player of the Year candidate, I feel like he can really, really prosper and shine. But my second Defensive Player of the Year candidate is Draymond Green. And one of the biggest problems with the Warriors so far, and that will probably be and will be apparent for the whole season, is their defense. Their defense has been very, very, very problematic. And if Draymond Green, impact as a defender, can take this defense from worst in the league to at least average, I think that would be a huge, huge, huge add on his legacy, because Draymond is obviously such an amazing defender. He's so smart with his doubles. He's so smart when defending the paint. He's amazing in the fast break. I think if he can just impact this Warriors defense, just go absolutely crazy, I think that would be very, very huge. And I think he can really pose as a great threat to winning that Defensive Player of the Year award. For the Defensive Player of the Year, I had a lot of problems choosing. I wanted to put Gobert there, but I don't think Gobert is going to be there. I feel like the Jazz defense is still going to be great, but I don't know. I feel like Gobert is not going to win it 3 times in a row. I wanted to put Kawhi there, and I don't know. It was very, very hard to make this. But my number one is Giannis. Giannis is the most versatile defender in the league. And I want to say he's the most versatile defender of the 2010s. The way he can switch off the pick and roll, the way he can guard the paint, the way he can guard other forwards and big men, and his interior defense, his exterior defense, the way he can read rotations, be active in passing lanes, get huge blocks. I think he is by far the best defender in the NBA. No bias. And I think he has a huge chance at winning this. I feel like a lot of people think that he got robbed from winning Defensive Player of the Year last season, even though Gobert definitely deserved it. Gobert in his own right is one of the best defenders we've seen in a really long time. But Giannis, he is special. Obviously, his athletic tools let him flourish very heavily on defense. His IQ has only been improving on the defensive end ever since he entered the league. And as when he first entered the league, the Bucks' whole identity was built around defense, and it still is to an extent now. So I feel like he's gonna be really nice for the team, really nice, a really good defender, obviously, and is the biggest threat to win that Defensive Player of the Year award. But the final, the most novel, the most prosperous, the most polarizing the world award, the MVP of the NBA, ladies and gentlemen. To start with the number 3, my third place for MVP is going to be Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis, I didn't get to talk about it, but he just had a 40-20 game against the Charlotte Hornets. It was absolutely insane. Even though I do think it's sort of getting over embellished, especially since he took so many free throws. He took 27 free throws. And there's another NBA star that if he only made 7 shots and scored 40 points in only 3 quarters, there would be an absolute outrage about it. But AD doesn't get that treatment. And if you don't know who I'm talking about James Harden. Obviously James Harden is one of the best shot creators and probably the best in NBA history at drawing fouls, but he gets so much hate for it, and I do not understand it at all. I've never seen the NBA player get penalized for going to the free-point line. Free throws, they're free points. I don't understand why he gets penalized. I don't understand why people feel as if they have the right and they're entitled to say that this basketball is real or not real and deserves respect and is skilled or not skilled. I feel like it is so impressive how just frequently James Harden gets to line and how proficient he is at it and how nobody can stop him, and that how that's also bolstered him as a scorer and offensive player. Free throws are one of the most important parts of basketball, and that the fact that people discredit James Harden's free throws because he flops or draws them is the most ridiculous thing ever to me. Free points are free points. And the fact that you just look at James Harden and say, oh, he doesn't deserve them, and that he's this and that, he's trash because he gets so many free throws, is absolutely ridiculous. And when Anthony Davis gets 27 free throw attempts, it's not seen as the same because he earns his free throws. That's the dumbest thing to me. A foul call is a foul call. But anyways, back to Anthony Davis. I feel like the Lakers are going to make a lot of noise. With LeBron being the main playmaker, AD is going to get a lot of those points. He's averaged 29 points so far, 13 rebounds. He's obviously a mesmerizing wonder on the defensive end. He's just so dominant. And I feel like this could really be the year that he wins MVP, especially if the Lakers come back and just are able to win a lot of games. And I've had a lot of Lakers players on this list so far. I'm not a Lakers fan in the slightest. I don't really have any bias. I just really do think that they could have a lot of potential winners of awards. Sort of similar to the 2001 76ers. They had the MVP, the Coach of the Year, and the Sixth Man of the Year. But back to my oh my goodness. Age Woj just tweeted. Okay. I'm gonna have to sideline talking about my second candidate for MVP for a second. Miles Turner collapsed to the floor with a non-contact injury on his lower right leg. He's been helped to the locker room. First off, prayers up for Miles Turner. I hope nothing is wrong. I hope everything's okay. Because he has been pretty solid to start this season, and the Pacers have been struggling to start this season. And if they lose him, they would struggle even more, and it would be a huge blow to lose him and not have Oladipo. I feel like that could almost just kill off the Pacers' playoffs hopes. But yeah, prayers up to Miles Turner. I hope nothing happens to him. But to my second candidate for MVP is Karl Anthony Towns. The Timberwolves have been absolutely spectacular to start the season, and Cat has been dominant. Nobody, I mean absolutely nobody, can stop Cat in the paint. Cat has been shooting lights out in the paint. He's been a lights out post player. His 3-point shooting has been very improved. He's just been absolutely amazing. And one of the biggest things for me with Cat is his playmaking has looked super nice. He's been such an improved playmaker. He can give up the ball at ease. In Ryan Sanders sets, he makes it so easy for Cat to make the right passes. Cat has been in a fantastic playmaker. He's averaging 32, 13, and 5, shooting 52% from the field and 51% from the three. He has been crazy. He has been absolutely amazing. Karl Anthony Towns, if the Timberwolves can keep this up and keep on performing out of their minds and win 50 games and cement themselves as a playoff team, Karl Anthony Towns has a real shot at the MVP. He is one of the most prolific scorers at the center position, not only in the NBA, but in NBA history. And he's also just one of the most prolific scorers in all of the league right now. So he has really nice chances to win the MVP if the that is all dependent on Cat carrying the Timberwolves. And the Timberwolves also would probably have to make a trade near the trade deadline, and that would also probably have to happen for them to have a good shot at being a very good team. But Cat has a very good chance to win the MVP if the Timberwolves are the 2 seed or the 1 seed in the West. But number 1 as the 2019-2020 most valuable player in the NBA is Giannis Antetokounmpo. I hope that didn't disappoint a lot of people, but Giannis has been an improved playmaker this year. He's averaged 9 assists. He's been fantastic, creating a lot of shots for the new Bucks role players like Kyle Korver and Wesley Matthews. He's been so good at creating for them. He's been such a nice passer. Obviously, he's so dominant in the paint. He can get to the paint at ease and just kill. The Bucks are going to be one of the best teams in the league. And obviously, there's going to be a narrative that he's carrying the Bucks team after they lost Malcolm Brogdon. And that vacant spot of Malcolm Brogdon is really just getting filled by Giannis because the Bucks are even more reliant on him as a playmaker and passer, which is only going to improve his numbers. He's shown flashes of being a decent shooter, which still can't be relied on for a while probably. But the biggest knock on me with Giannis is his free throws, man. If he could just make a dang free throw consistently, he could probably be a 33-point scorer. But he still sucks from the free throw line, and that's always going to be a really big knock. That's always going to suck because free throws are so important. Just the fact that you could get 10 3-point attempts and make 9 or 8 of them is always just going to help you and your team. And obviously, Giannis is one of the best defenders in the NBA. And that's also another huge reason of why he should win MVP. And I think his offensive impact for the Bucks is going to be seen even more than it was last year. And last year, it was huge. So, yeah, that is my last candidate for MVP. And thus, all of my candidates for all of the awards. For MVP, I have Giannis. Coach of the Year, Frank Vogel. Defensive Player of the Year, Giannis. Sixth Man of the Year, D. Rose. Most Improved Player, Brandon Ingram. And Rookie of the Year, RJ Barrett. But before I end the podcast, I want to just talk about some of the biggest disappointments so far. And that is Mike Conley, the Kings, the Bulls, and Jrue Holiday. First, let's start with Mike Conley. To put it frankly, he has just been absolutely terrible. He's averaged 8 points, 2 rebounds, 4 assists, shooting 20% from the field and 15% from the three-point line. He has looked so out of place, looked so just atrocious in the Jazz's offense. It's just made me doubt if he deserves to be in the NBA. He's been fouling, not a lot, but he's just had his struggles all over the court. He's just looked terrible, man. I really hope he can just pull this up, just get out of this slump, I guess. But he has just been awful. He's been missing good looks from the court. He's been getting pretty decent shots, but it's just been really, really, really bad. It's just been really bad for him. But overall, another team I want to talk about before ending the podcast is the Kings. I won't be able to talk about the Bulls and Jrue Holiday for this podcast, but I do want to talk about the Kings. The Kings have been terrible. Luke Walton is one of the worst coaches in the NBA. He is showing mere signs of incompetency. I'm wondering if he can even coach an intramural league because his rotations are atrocious. He slowed down the pace and tempo of the Kings massively, and they should be one of the fastest, most fun teams to watch. He's giving them bad shot attempts, awful sets, and he has been the single reason for the Kings struggling so early and their possible regression this season. But that's just me. Mike Conley, the Kings, improve, please. I love both of y'all. But with that is going to be the end of the Hoopers Dimension podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening. It's been your host, Ernest of the Hoopers Dimension podcast, and see you next time.